Welcome back to the top-down shooter tutorial in Godot. In this video, we're going to be creating a simple menu system. It's going to be adaptable. That means that the screen size changes, the menu is going to change as well. You could go back and apply this to some of the earlier stuff that we did with the user interface if you wanted to, because that was very straightforward. We just put a few things on the top, but I'd seen some students designing interfaces where the menu icons were down the bottom, and when they went full screen, they kind of stuck in the middle of the screen. So you could use what we're going to cover here to go back and change that. I'm going to actually make a 3D scene for this one because this is going to be the title screen and I'm going to add some stuff to it. So I'm going to change this to title screen. I'm going to add a camera, which we'll use later. And then I'm going to add a control node. No, I'm not. I'm going to add a margin container. And that margin container shouldn't be a child of the camera, it should be a child of title screen. Now this margin container, we're going to set the anchor of this so that the right hand side is the anchor and the bottom is the anchor. So 1 and 1. I'm going to move that back a little bit. Then I'm going to set the margins for the left to be 100, the top to be 100, the right to be 100, and the bottom to be 100. Sorry, these are going to be negative 100 here, right and bottom is going to be negative 100. Now what that's going to do is it's going to give us a margin around this. And we can easily test this by putting in a color rect inside this here. And you'll see what happens when I run this scene. I'll save this scene. I'm going to call it title screen. So it's got the camera in the background, it's got that node. This is still loaded, we're going to have to disable that UI, but this is our color rect in the middle. If I resize the screen, you'll see that that color rect also resizes and it stays within that margin bounds, which is what we want. So we can put things into here and it will stay within that bound. So we can delete that color rect, we don't need that for the title screen. And we're going to go ahead and add in a center container. So this is going to put things in the center of the rect rather than starting up here. Then I'm going to put in a VBox container. And then from here, I'm going to add in a texture. I think I just have a texture rect. And this one here, over here on the texture, I'm going to select the drop down box and click load. And along the bottom here, it shows you all the different things. Now, I've actually created some textures for this already. I've imported them into my resources. I've got a title screen, like a title menu thing, a new game button, options button, and an exit button. The new game button and the exit button will work. The options button is not going to work. I'm not going to create an options menu. There are plenty of really long tutorials out there on doing this, and they will do it better than I can do it. So if you're interested in creating an options menu, then take a look at some of those other video tutorials out there. It's not really relevant to what I'm doing. In fact, if you're one of my students, you can leave this options out for now. It's not necessary. You might want to replace it with like a credits page or something, or an about the game page, or even how to play. So we've got this texture rect here, and over here on the right, I'm going to select the texture for it. Load. I'm going to go to my resources folder. I'm going to select my title, Mr. Blaster. Pretty good little title there. Then what I'm going to do is go ahead and add another container here. This is going to be another VBox container. And it's underneath this one. It's underneath there, so it's underneath the title screen. And in here, I'm going to add a center container. Then there may be another way to do this, but I just found this way fairly straightforward and easy, so to make all these different containers. And then in here, I'm going to add a button. It's going to be a texture button. Now over here on the right-hand side with the texture button, I'm going to select textures. And this bit took me a while to find. I kept on scrolling down looking for how do I actually put a texture in. It's hidden here under the bit that says textures. Now you need to have a normal texture. This is not the same thing as a normal in a 3D model. It's just the normal state of the texture, okay, when nothing is being pushed. So I'm going to go ahead and go resources. This is going to be new game. I've got my menu item there. I'm going to rename that button to be new game. And then I'm going to duplicate this. It goes underneath. I'm going to rename this one to be options. I'm going to duplicate this again. And can rename this one to the exit. And then I'll go ahead and change the texture on these over here. So I will load resources, this one's options, and then this one is going to be textures, load resources, exit. So I've got these in here. Now there is a way to kind of change this here. Now what I want to do is I want to set the alignment of this to be the center. I want to have a bit of space here. I think it looks a bit funny like that. So I'm also going to set the rect size, the Y value, I'm going to set it to 300. Okay. And then if I set this end, it's going to put it down the bottom. If I set it center, it's going to put it there. So let's have a look at what this looks like. It always seems to jump up the top here, and I cannot figure out why it does that. I might have to put that in the center and see what happens. End, nope. It may be to do with the size of this VBox container. I may have to go begin, change the size of this to 500, and then hit play and see what happens there. Still going a little bit funny. This one is set to center. The size of it has changed again. 300. It's probably, as soon as I click this one, it's going to go back. Oh, didn't that time. I had some issues with this. It's going to go back there, and I've been trying to figure this out for a while, but it's not going to happen at the moment. This tutorial is not intended to be really detailed about this. If this is something that you really want to know how to do, you may have to look at another one, because this is just about getting a simple tutorial, a simple menu happening, so that you can kind of get into prototyping, get a finished outcome happening, and then kind of look into it a little bit more. So what we're going to do now is actually make these buttons work. So I'm going to go up to the title screen here and add a script called title screen. Delete this stuff. And the very first thing we're going to do is add that func ready. I deleted it, it was already there. And what we're going to do is hide the user interface. So user interface.hide. It's going to hide it. We don't want to get rid of it because it's going to come back in a minute. User interface.hide. Then if I go down to these buttons, I can connect the signals up. So when this button is pressed, what I want to do is I want to get the tree, change scene, and I'm going to change it to test level 1. Not Spark, I'm not sure why that came up. Test level 1.tscn. That's going to take us to level 1. And I also want to show the user interface. Like that. I'm going to do the same thing with exit, so I'll add that signal in, and this is going to be pretty simple. It's going to say get tree .quit. Now let's test that this works. I'm going to change my project settings now before I do that, so that the run, instead of running test level 1, it now loads the title, well, not that one, that's my test one, the title screen here. I'll hit play. So it loads my title screen, and I click new game and it takes me to there. Bang, 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 bang. If I go back to here, exit, it just quits. So we've got those two buttons working, but I said I was going to add some stuff to the background of this scene. So what I've got is a little camera here, and I'm pretty sure I can view the camera. There's a way I can view the camera. I've got to select the camera and turn on preview. Now with this, all I want to do is make up some little scenes, I guess, in here. So if I pop that there, let's just go ahead and get out of preview mode. And I'll position this here. Now this is just like building any other level. I'm just going to build a really simple little scene, maybe post some things in an action, and duplicate this. Pop some walls in. Let's get a couple more of these walls going. trying to select more than one. Control D. And then let's get the player model. Blender models. Player somewhere. I'll just type player in. I don't actually want the player model. I want, did I call it Minecraft Steve? GLTF, main character. He's going to go into there. He's really big. I'll have to scale him down. I'll have to go to here. 0.2, 0.2, 0.2. Bring him across. And then I will add a bunch of these zombie characters in here. So let's scale him down. Bring them across. Rotate them. I'm just going to duplicate a bunch of these. You could spend a little bit of time setting up a scene. Shift D. Oops, Control D. Rotate them. Control D. And I could set some tracer fire and whatnot up there. And I'm just going to set the camera to be at this position. So I'll rotate this guy a little bit here. So he's kind of posing that way. And set the camera to be here. Is there a way to set the camera to go to this position? I'm not entirely sure there is. I know there is in Unity, but let's see. Transform. No, we'll just move the camera here. I can't see it if there is an obvious way to do it. Move the camera up. Select preview. And can I move the camera in here, I wonder? No, but that'll do. I'm not too worried about it. I could spend ages doing that and getting it just right, which I'm not going to worry about. And then when I hit play, I've got my little background scene, I've got my title screen, I've got new game options, exit. You could just put an image as the background, and that would be fine as well. There's loads of things you could do here. I'm just trying to keep it simple. New game works, and there we go. We've got everything pretty much working. The last thing to work through is some world environment stuff, which I'll cover in the next video, just to get some lighting in and make it look a little bit more interesting.